Hi folks, with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the incredibly high success rate that refugees, refugee claimants and asylum seekers have when they enter into the United Kingdom. Now, I've seen various numbers around, such as only 70% are accepted, and this is touted as, we've got tough border policies and all this sort of thing. But when you actually sort of start crunching the numbers, people are, these third world illegal peasants are being moved around from refugee to asylum claim, a different sort of asylum claim, different grades of refugee claim, and so on and so forth. And then it put on a sort of a round robin circuit where it can take years to supposedly investigate their claim. Then they're given leave to remain and they go on to another program. So the reality is that the overall, if you sort of sit down and do the hard numbers, certainly by my calculus at least, 98.7% of the people are successful on their application. Now, there's those that are not successful, for whatever the reason, are given access to just open-ended free legal aid at the expense of the British taxpayer, where all the lawyers and the whole thing are lined up to appeal any non-success in getting refugee status. And so, if you look at the ones that it's like 1 in every 200 or 1 in every 210 actually doesn't get leave to remain. And even that is a little questionable. So why is it? How can so many people be accepted in as refugees and asylum seekers? Is that even mathematically possible? They're escaping war and persecution and torture. They're escaping Hitler. Well, wait, stop with the hyperbole. Let's just. They're coming from. They've passed through 11 safe countries where they could have applied for refugee or asylum seeker status in 11 different countries. They've also passed by, within the area that they left, numerous United Nations refugee camps where they could have stayed and got free food, free shelter, free medical, free dental, free everything, courtesy of the United Nations, or again, the Western citizen taxpayer. So they could have stayed there and then gone back to their country when it was supposedly safe. The majority of countries they come from are not even at war, haven't been at war, haven't been at any sort of conflict. There's no famine or anything. So these are just people that, why are they leaving? Well, it's because I'm homosexual. There's a little cheat sheet that the United Nations activists and agitators and people smugglers give them. We'll try this first. Just say you're homosexual. If that doesn't work, then say this. If that doesn't work, say that. So they're given a range, and they can just keep on and on going until they hit the one on the cheat sheet. That they go, oh, yeah, we'll accept that one. So there's no rigor or verification. Now, to give you an idea of third world countries, and I've travelled extensively on business. When you're in the downtown area of the big cities, then you've got some, where all the embassies are and everything, there you've got some organisation and structure and bureaucracy and administration. But outside of that, there's none. So if you come from some rural village, which, hundreds of millions of people live in these rural, gazillions of people live in these, there's no way of verifying anything that's said. It would be impossible. And also bribery and corruption are rampant. So if someone's being paid off, and remember, a $20 US payment that to you and I would be laughable. $20 US in a remote village in a third world country, that's a lot of money. That's equivalent to a few weeks' wages, so it's a lot of money to them. So there's no way of verifying it. Now, if these people have their documents with them all the way through as they travel through all these other countries, they have their documents, but suddenly lose them just before they turn up in the United Kingdom, then that should be, you would think, instant disqualification. But no, that's just overlooked and bypassed. So the reality is that there's pretty much zero rigor applied to these people coming into the UK. Now, zero rigor, no documentation, no way of verifying the accuracy of their claims. And given that the rigor and the bar is set so low that they can say, well, there are 20 reasons why why I need asylum status here. And as long as one of those 20 claims is treated as being talking point of the month, then that's it. They're given leave to stay. Now, additional things are just, do you speak any English? Do you have any skills or qualifications? Things like that. That's all waved away as being irrelevant. These people are escaping persecution. But wait, stop, they're not. They've passed through 11 countries and passed through or ignored and passed up the opportunity to stay at numerous United Nations refugee camps with free everything. So why could you even possibly be considered a refugee or an asylum seeker? You couldn't be. It's impossible. No sort of world of reality or factual accuracy could treat someone in that situation as a refugee or an asylum seeker. And yet, millions of these people are entering Europe, and the United States. Millions of these people are entering Europe and able to get this asylum seeker and refugee status pretty much upon entry, and there is no mechanism of even minor rigor that's being applied to, if you can't prove your case, then you're not going to become a refugee. But instead, the burden of proof is reversed. So the British government has to prove their claim is not true or not accurate, but without the means of doing so. If they brought their documents with them, that'd be different. You could go through at least some verification process. But these documents are all floating in the English Channel, and it's a massive, massive scam, and it's been allowed to go on. And the European Union, Ursula von der Leyen, seems to want this sort of thing to continue, if anything, to be ramped up. It's absolute insanity. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.